Welcome to episode 60 of the XrmToolCast. In this episode, Scott and I speak with Bram Colpaert, the creator of the Data Transport. This may be the geekiest episode or nerdiest episode we've ever had, because not only do we talk about Star Trek, we also talk about how some of us, maybe Scott, spends our free time figuring out how GUID generation works in CRM. We also talk about some dad jokes and how Bram seems to only find time to complete tasks or to work on his tools during the summer. So if you are wanting him to change something, maybe do your own pull requests, because it may take him all the way to next summer before he updates his tool. So we also have a special shout out to Linn for being the editor of our podcast recently. Couldn't do it without him. Really appreciate it. So send a special shout out to Linn if you could this week. So with that, sit back, relax, and let's get started. Hello and welcome to another podcast. Hello and welcome to another episode of the XrmToolCast. It's not just another podcast; it's the podcast for those that are interested in tools for the Dataverse Power Platform. With me, your host, Daryl, always raising the bar, and Scott, spreader of the Queen's English Duro. Scott, how's it going?
Very good. Thank you very much, Daryl. Yeah, the Queen's English. Yeah, absolutely. Got to maintain standards, right? You know.
Yes.
I'm not sure I do actually speak the Queen's English. Actually, I'm not sure. I think there's probably better people that do that.
Yeah, I don't know who they are, but okay, maybe they are. So, but I was wondering when eventually the Queen can't live forever, and so there will be a replacement. Most likely, it will be her son here. But does that mean it switches from the Queen's English to the King's English overnight? Is that how that works?
I think that's the way it works. Yeah, everything will become the King. Because it'll be God Save the King, and everything will be. It'll be very strange, very strange. But of course, we don't know who's going to be king. Because obviously it's going to be Prince Charles, but he could abdicate, and then so it's who knows what will happen. So we'll have to see. But I've been listening to lots and lots of other podcasts recently, actually, and I was listening to George Doubinski, and he's on camera recently, which has been quite nice. He's been doing quite a lot of stuff, so I've been fanboying George a bit. But
is that the one with Amy and him?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I do love George's accent. Obviously it sounds like Gru from Minions. Let's just get it out there. That's what everyone thinks. So I'm just going to go out and say it. And George is going to kill me, right? But
my biggest issue with George is I knew him by listening to him on podcasts and listening to him at 2x speed. So when I spend time with him in person, I really have to say, it's okay. This is how he talks. I'm just used to him talking at 2x, and I need to get over
how
that.
Could you possibly listen to George at 2x? He speaks so fast, and he's crams so much information into short periods of time. 2x must be just like downloading content directly to your brain.
George Doubinski? We talk about the same George here?
Yeah, of course.
Okay,
yeah.
just making sure. All right.
Well, what are you saying? What are you saying, Daryl? What are you saying about George?
I speak way too fast to begin with, so I always have to concentrate on slowing down.
It's something we all have to work on, right? Being clear. I was listening to the Up podcast recently, and so Megan and Lisa listened to the episode with Jonas. So they don't normally listen to this podcast, I don't think, because it's a bit too kind of, techie for them. But they listen to the one with Jonas, which is quite nice. So we have 2 extra listeners. Maybe that'll be it. They're not going to listen to us ever again. but thank you for listening to us.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Let's get on to our guest for this episode. And our breast is our breast. I just said breast. Guest. I don't know why I just say breast, but breast. Yep. Let's just keep that one in there just for the humor of it all. Our guest this week, if I will talk very slowly, maybe I won't come up with any other issues with things that are coming out of my mouth. But our guest this week is Bram Colpaert. I can't pronounce it's a Finnish name, right, Bram?
No, it's a Belgian name. It's Flemish, actually.
Belgium. Flemish.
Flemish. Yeah. It's Colpaert.
Colpaert.
Yeah.
Sounds
yeah.
a lot better when you say it.
No, but it's quite okay. I understand it.
Hey, Bram, just ignore Daryl, his butchering of your name. Great to have you on.
Just kidding.
I'm honored you invited me here. So,
So Bram has quite a few tools in the XRM Toolbox, but we thought we'd focus on one specifically today. And when you read the tool, at least when you read the title of it, for me, it just harkens back to my formative years growing up and being a Star Trek kind of fan, a Next Generation kind of fan, and having Commander Data on there and having the data transporter. I just think of Star Trek beam me up Scotty sort of thing. So I don't know if I'll come up with a fancy name for this episode. I probably won't, but yeah, we could get on the Trekkie side of things. But this has nothing to do with Star Trek. So Bram, why don't you start off with what the tool is, maybe how you came up with it, and how people would use it.
well, it's actually just what the name says. It is a data transporter. I think I've said it all then. So it's a tool used for transporting data from one environment to another. So transporting all records from a QA environment to a production environment, for example, because I think it's in all kind of projects that we have configuration data and or like we use lookups as a configurable a pick list we can configure or let the customer configure. And when we're in the QA testing phase, you set it up on your QA environment, and then you want to easily transport it to your production environment. So this is actually the reason why the tool has been created. But actually, I stole the idea from another tool. Like a few years ago, 5 years ago, there was another tool which did exactly the same, but it was a real burden to use it. It was not user friendly. You had to do all kind of weird configurations or something. But I don't remember exactly what it was. But I was using the XrmToolBox, and then you have the ease of managing and connecting to all kind of environments. So I thought, let me just create a tool, and the data transporter was born.
You know what? I think that's a real common thread in a lot of these things is that, that other things may exist, other alternatives may exist to various different tools, but the fact that it's in the XrmToolBox, and that exactly as you mentioned there, Bram, the ease of management of connections and, being able to have different highlighting for different connections that you're connecting to, you can highlight it red for prod and, different colors. I think that's quite often overlooked as a real advantage. It's like, well, why create a tool? You can do it always like that. But actually, people really appreciate that ability just to have that simple way of a single place to connect and single place to manage all your, the things that you're going to do against your environment. So, because I've used the configuration migration tool from Microsoft, which, I've always had. It's done me well in the past. You can create a package, a zip package with all the data and everything. But there's some things it doesn't do, like you can't migrate certain types of data. But the one thing is the management of the connections is a real pain because it just uses the Microsoft pop-up dialog and it doesn't remember the last connection you were on. You can't just swap between the environments and all of that kind of stuff. So I think ease of management of connections might be a reason why I perhaps use your tool over and above the Microsoft tool.
Yes, and I also believe the data migration tool exports to an XML file, and then you have to import that XML file again. And I just I like the fact that it's just straight from that environment to another environment, and you don't have to store the data files or anything. Just straight away to the other environment. Although lately, a few months ago, I've added the option to store your configurations. Like you can select attributes or entities or make some mappings or filters. So you can filters is you can provide a filter, a fetch XML filter into the tool, which only selects that specific records, or a mapping where you can say this ID should be mapped to that ID. If like an example is business units, you cannot create business unit IDs or the root business unit, so you can just map it in a configuration file. And the last one of the latest changes I did was the option to save all those configurations to a file, so you can actually create a playlist of data that you can transfer. If you understand.
Like that. Playlist, yeah.
So does that mean just multiple? Does that mean multiple tables, like in a playlist? I want to transfer. Hey, I want to transfer these 7 things in this order. Go. Is that what that playlist means? Okay.
Yes, correctly. So you can, for each entity, you can make a configuration, filter and a mapping, save that configuration, and then add all those configurations into one playlist. And then you should be able to just put in there 20 configurations and just hit play, and it transfers everything.
Nice.
All right.
It looked like a handy feature.
Can it do? I mean, I have to admit, I've not used it because, like I said, I use the configuration migration tool. But can it do many-to-many relationships?
Yes, it can.
Cool, because that's one thing that many people find difficult to migrate.
Yeah, it's on another tab I added where you can. I don't know by heart how it's called. I think associations. I don't know by heart. I have to open it to check it how I call it. It's already been a few years ago since I typed in the label of the tab, so I don't remember it. But you can do it.
I'll forget things like the week of. Like, I don't know. I did that on Monday. I don't remember what I did. I have to go back and look at it. So if you can remember a year out, that's better than I. So the for the like GUIDs and stuff, do they have to be the same? Do they match on like the name? Like what's the methodology for how that works in the data migration tool?
You can choose that actually. If you select the GUID to be transferred, it will transfer the GUID as well. When you create, when you choose to create the entities which you transfer, you can also update or delete, by the way. So when you just check the create box and you select the GUID to transfer, it will create a exact same entity with the exact same GUID. And that's also easy because sometimes when people are configuring workflows or actions or processes, they directly select an entity. So like we want to fill in a lookup with that entity, but if you have a similar entity on another environment and you deploy your solution to that environment, all of a sudden your workflow is not working anymore because the GUIDs don't match.
Yeah, that's real common challenge, isn't it? Having GUIDs across for reference data is so useful. And it's one of those things that a lot of the times people think about after the fact. They've then gone and created the records in production, and then they start to realize things are they don't match and all those kind of things. You have to kind of delete it. So yeah, I would say always using the same GUIDs for reference data is definitely a good idea. A lot of people, there's a lot of chit chat around whether or not you can create your GUIDs outside of Dataverse, or if you should let Dataverse create the GUIDs for you when you import. I've never really had a satisfactory answer, but I think that the Dataverse GUIDs are always sequential, aren't they? They're kind of like a SQL sequential GUID type structure. But
Scott, what are you doing? Where are you at when there's a lot of chatter about that? What are you doing that you have chatter around? Can you create your own GUIDs?
Do you not hear the voices? Do you not hear the voices?
No, but I have to admit, a few days ago, we had the same conversation between colleagues about the GUIDs that were incremental, and they were talking about if it was affecting the indexing on the database in the cloud environments when you're not using the Dataverse GUIDs. So it could be if it wasn't
right,
sure.
I was just in the corner.
Yeah. So
I was on that call.
So we also had this conversation by coincidence.
Yeah, you've hit the exactly the nail on the head, right? The out of the box IDs that are generated by CRM, by Dataverse, are sequential. So they're using the SQL sequential GUID stuff. So that would help with the ordering and the indexing and stuff like that. But you can create your own too. Is it going to end the world? No, it's not. I do it all the time. Whenever I don't do it, I don't purposely do it, but I do it when it makes sense. If I'm something else is coming over from another environment, it already has a GUID. I'm just going to use that one or something like that. But even that, when you're thinking of Bram's tool here, where he's inserting, I mean, if he's keeping that same GUID, that causes very similar issues in there potentially as well. And you can also be smart about it and go, well, maybe I don't want to create them for activities, something that's always very performance iffy or touchy. And so maybe for that I won't. But hey, this system setting where I've got 3,000 records, whether they're jumbled of IDs or not, it won't matter. Like 3,000, it won't matter for performance at all. So yes, is it better to use it for performance reasons? Yes, but also how many records are you dealing with?
But isn't also once it's indexed, it shouldn't matter, no? I'm not an expert on that, on database kind of stuff, but
there's a whole kind of theory around fill factors on indexing and all that kind of stuff. And I think, generally, as Daryl says, if you've got large amounts of data, it's probably not going to be reference data anyway. So you're probably not going to be referencing inside workflows and stuff like that. So there's no real probably need to import the GUIDs. It's only usually the reference data, product catalogs perhaps, but generally it's going to be small. But I did reverse engineer the code back in the on-prem days. I was just curious one day, and it wasn't.
What does Scott do in his spare time? I reverse engineer how GUIDs are created for the on-prem. It wasn't using sequentially. It wasn't using the T-SQL sequential ID. It was using its own custom bit of code. I don't know if it still does that. But yeah, but I think they've kind of simulated the way that the sequential ID works for performance reasons and fill factors on indexes. But yeah, I mean, we could literally talk about this I could talk about it for days. Everyone else would get bored, but
it's quite interesting.
The thing is that these days, when it's Dataverse, it's a service. The idea is that you shouldn't really care what's going on under the covers. But when you start to think about these kind of things, there is suddenly some subtle points where you have to kind of start to think about actually, well, how is it actually implemented? Yeah, in theory, you shouldn't have to worry about it. But, if you really want to eke out that last bit of performance for a really complex system, then you probably need to know what's going on.
Yeah, but the reason we were talking about it last week was because we had one environment where there were some performance issues. And that was the reason of the talk. And it came, I don't know who exactly had the idea or search it online or found the answer online, but I was like a bit surprised, like it does matter.
Yeah, cool.
Hope it does.
Yeah.
So there's a new change to the XrmToolBox that your tool will be one that has that gets to take advantage of, and this is the split colors for environments. Have you guys seen that yet or played with that yet?
The split colors, is it what Scott said earlier, that you can mark production and QA environments, or is it something else?
So in the XrmToolBox, you get to define this environment. I want this color. So, most of us usually put production as red to scream at us that we don't do things silly, right? And I put development as green because I think of it as the green field sort of thing. That's just in my head. But it used to be whatever your main in your main connection, that was the color of the background of the XrmToolBox. Now, if you do have a tool that has more than one connection, when you get the other connection going, it will also have that color in a split environment. So you'll see the source environment for one color, and then whatever your other color is for your other environment on the other side. So you can see in a first glance, I'm going from this color environment to that color environment if you set up your environments that way. So
that could be interesting as well. Yeah, I should put it on my backlog.
Well, no, it's done. It's there. It's the XrmToolBox. It's there. It's taken advantage of because you have a multi-connection XrmToolBox tool. So, so you your tool's getting better.
I love that kind of feature where I don't have to do anything. It's great.
I think the phrase is auto magically. Is that it will just auto magically happen?
Someone told me they hated that word. I was like, that's a brilliant word. I don't know why.
A lot of people hate it. I like it. Auto magic.
I also say it all the time. I have a functional consultant. He's a good friend of mine. He always asked if I fix something or solve something. How did you do it? I always say magic.
And then you disappear in a cloud of smoke.
Yeah. And he's happy with the answer, so
as well, like a Doctor Strange style, like coming to work one day.
Magic can be fun. You could do simple magic tricks all the time. I got this, the whole like, hey, it's a pen, and then I can squeeze it really tight and it still stays in my hand, like that sort of thing. You ever seen that? You can entertain elementary kids for hours with that.
Oh, you could entertain me, Daryl. I'm enthralled. I mean, just for those people listening, didn't really work very well, but
no, it's more
have
of
to go
more
to
of
YouTube.
Visual,
You have to go.
Just listen and be amazed. That's all.
Ooh, I can hear everyone going, ooh. It's like the aliens in Toy Story.
Ooh, yeah.
Sorry,
man.
off topic again.
Yeah, I have to start recording all the things that we talked about. We have aliens in Toy Story. We have Star Trek Next Generation. We have spending our free time diving into GUID generation for interest, I guess. What else are we missing?
We just start saying random things so Linn can do it in the editing and put things up.
Yes, that's one thing I do need to call out. I haven't called out yet on air.
I noticed.
Ones that win. Previous guest has been kind enough to actually do the editing for us, so that's been a huge burden off my shoulders because it just takes time. It takes time.
We thank you, Linn. Thank you
very much, Linn.
Very much.
And we will continue to thank you for as long as you're willing to do it. And when you're done doing it, we will thank you again and figure out what to do after that.
So
and just say random donuts. Can we have a picture of a donut now? Because I'd like a big, maybe with pink icing. Yeah, he'll make it happen. I know. I've got every confidence in him.
Just give him more work to do, Scott. It's
if
great.
you have it floating across the screen as well, that'd be great as well.
Do you want Homer Simpson eating the donut too?
Actually, I didn't think about that, Daryl. Lynn's going, oh no, it's going to take me ages.
I just put it on the backlog.
Yes, good, exactly, Bram, exactly.
There is an episode of Homer where he goes back in time with this toaster, and he skits on a bug and kills it, and he goes back into the future, and like everything's messed up, and so he keeps on going back and forth, like smashing everything. And there's one he comes back, and like he's filthy rich, this huge mansion. They've got all this money, all this food. He's like, hey, I want a donut. They're like, what's a donut? He goes, he like yells and he runs back. And then it's like, oh, it's raining outside. And it's outside is literally raining donuts. And that's the world he left. So I think that's a good one.
So next tool. Let's go on to the. We're going to be here for a very long time, aren't we?
Well, we only have the one tool we're going to talk about today, really. So we have the mappings and filters that you set up for each entity specifically, and those get stored as you said you'd be able to store that, and you download those. Are stored as like an XML file locally, then, or how does it keep that?
Yes, it's just an XML file which you can store, which you can put into your source safe kind of things, GitHub. Just store it with your project files, and you can just use it. When my production environment is destroyed, I can just use my config files from the GitHub and transfer everything back from my QA environment. The production data, of course, is lost.
Yeah, I was about to say. So, can you export the data as well,
No.
or is it just the config? Right. So
it's just a config. Yeah. So you still need an environment where the data is safe.
Yeah, and I guess it's a sliding scale, isn't it? Where do you want to be on that kind of whole ALM story? I'm a big fan of storing my data alongside my code in source control. So if you've got a solution that requires a set of reference data like we were talking about, then actually storing that in source control so that when you get a change set or a pull request, you can see, okay, well, this code's changed, but also this reference data's changed as well. But then on the flip side, I'm guessing there's a whole ton of people that really are not interested in ALM at all. They just want some data to get moved from this environment to this environment, and they want to do it quickly and efficiently. I'm guessing that's the sort of use case really that your kind of users of your tool are. That's probably where they're at.
Yeah, it's true, but I have thought about it to implement this kind of thing. But I just, to be honest, I didn't need it. So I thought, okay, it's also a project I do in my spare time. It's mostly during summer when it's not so busy at work. In the evening, like Scott is reverse engineering the on-premise software.
I don't think you're allowed to do that as well. So just for legal purposes, I did not do that.
Okay. So sure.
Just to be clear.
So then I'm working on some tools, and it's mostly I implement what's needed. So I check the comments on GitHub or if there are any issues, and I just see if I have to fix something or have to improve. Sometimes there are some good ideas. Sometimes I believe there are already a few contributors to the tool as well. So a few people also helped improving it. So which I'm glad they did, because it's best for all of us to improve the tool. And it's it's just implementing what is needed. And if nobody specifically asks for it, I will not implement it to have it to implement it. If you really need it, you can of course use the data migration tool of Microsoft or maybe some alternatives.
What's the kind of the largest number of records that you've moved with it? I mean, if our listener is thinking, oh yeah, I've got to move some data, and they've got 100,000 records, is that something that you would kind of say, okay, yeah, I want to do this with this tool, or?
Well, I believe it can. I never did it because, as I told you, I only do it for configuration, null data or something. But I know one of the improvements that were made was they used execute multiple requests into the code to be able. Before it was just one request per transaction, per data transport. And they implemented the execute multiple. So I believe it's by doing it that way, you can move a lot of data. It will of course take a while, but I don't really see any issue why it wouldn't work, except for timeouts, of course. But it should just work. I don't believe you will get timeouts.
You get this. There's obviously the entitlements, and then there's the throttling as well. So that how fast and how long you can go, where you've got the certain service protection limits that say you can only do a certain number of calls in a certain 120 seconds. So does the tool detect that? I'm guessing it'll probably be done automatically if you're using the XrmToolBox's connection. So because that.
I never did it with the XrmToolBox, but sometimes we just create quickly create data migration tools if you want to convert data or transfer specific or some weird data, I don't know. When we create just a tool specifically for that, we also use the execute multiple requests, and I'm talking about 50K or 100,000K of data. So quite a lot, and I've never came across issues like that. So I believe it's done automatically, and the data transporter is using the same technique actually. So I should believe it wouldn't be an issue.
But if you're using the organization service that's provided by the XrmToolBox, then that's the Microsoft SDK one, which automatically detects the service protection limits, and then it just does a thread.sleep. So it will kind of go really fast up until you hit the service protection, and then it will slow down, and then it just kind of chunter away.
But it'll work. So
yeah, eventually it'll get there. Eventually, just kind of leave it overnight or something and go.
So I'll have what used to happen. I mean, when we had Jonas on here, I think he was maybe a little more critical than Scott is. Scott is, stereotypical nice British person here, I guess. But he'd always point out things of, this isn't right, or this needs to get improved, or you need to change this. So I'm going to put on my Jonas hat here. And you got 4 buttons here on the right of your tool: mappings, filters, and then you got a download button, which I can totally understand. And then you've got a 4th button, which I don't know what that is. It looks like maybe it's it opens up the file dialog when I click it, and I guess it's the load button. Is that the load settings button?
yes, of course it is.
Okay.
Yes, it's to load in a configuration. So you can download the configuration, but you can also upload the configuration. Open the configuration.
All right.
Isn't there a tooltip or so appearing?
No, you have no hover. I checked for the hover. I was looking for it.
Putting it on the first backlog. Putting it on the backlog.
Yeah, I'll have to go put it on the backlog. The first 2 are actual text names, so I knew exactly what those were. So anyway,
I think Bram. Then what you just say, oh well, we do accept pull requests. So Daryl, if it really bugs you, you could just fix it yourself.
Yeah. Or just put it as an issue on the GitHub page.
So sure.
And then everyone could be your big so petty.
That's the only thing I can point out. Everything else is perfect.
To be honest, actually, that's just my backlog, the GitHub issue list.
So there are some auto mapping settings that you can do with the tool. There's a root business unit, which I'm assuming means, if this is the root business unit here, go find the root business unit is in the sort and the target, and then map that automatically, right? That's all that's doing.
Yep, correct.
And then the same thing for the default transaction currency, correct?
Yep, correct. Yeah, because it's some of the things we used it for in some of our projects was when we create a whole security setup with business units, and we just want to copy that all in one big chunk, transport it. Yeah, we need to have the root business unit, and we were tired of constantly adding it to the mapping manually, so we just added it as automatically retrieve it, and it works. Same for
lazy developers. Lazy developers.
But when I was in college,
problem. Yeah.
My teacher, my college professor told me a good developer is a lazy developer.
That's what I say all the time. If I'd have to do something twice, it's once too many. So. Yeah. And then the final one is the system user entity reference. So is that taking like the domain name and doing that mapping then in case the GUIDs are different?
Yep, correct.
Okay. All right, cool.
So if you have if the owners are important or something, you just have to make sure they also exist on the target environment, or you will have some errors appearing.
Yeah, that makes sense.
It's also you also have a preview button. I don't know if you noticed that, but so you can see it's especially handy if you're going to use filters, so you can see what you're going to transport, as in create, update, or delete before you actually perform the action. It's handy, but yeah, it's not detecting if you're going to get errors or not. So it's.
So when you've got the classic scenario of the sort of circular reference, so the situation where you've got parent-child relationships, and then another look up to say like primary contact, where you have to have the accounts that the contacts are owned by imported first, but the account also has a reference to a primary contact, which is going to be inserted second. Does it do that kind of? Does it handle sort of that second pass to updates?
No, it doesn't do it automatically. But if I'm in a situation like that, it's I just do it in 2 steps. I first create all the entities without any attributes, so the entities exist as empty entities, and then I just do an update of all the entities with the attributes I need. Yeah. So it's a two-step process.
I had to solve that problem with the Xrm unit test framework, where I wanted to be able to say, here, give it all these entities and have it automatically create everything. And that's really hard to go through and do that. And all right, first run, we're going to go through, create everything we can and populate everything we can. Oh, but we can't do this one because it's a circular reference. So we need to do a second pass and update those things. It was, it took a while to get it right. Let's say I got it wrong before I finally got it right. But
well, the configuration,
thing.
The configuration migration tool takes a brute force approach. It's not smart. It doesn't go, ooh, look, I've got a circular reference. It literally just does brute force second pass. So if there's any lookups to entities that it's also importing, it will just always move those to a second pass, irrespective if it's a circular reference or not. So if it knows, oh, I'm importing contacts, it won't import any lookups to contacts. It'll go back after it's finished all the contacts and just, update those, which means that it could take longer than you would want it to if there's no need to do that double pass. But, it's just the way it does it. One size fits all, as they say.
Awesome. So, Bram, that's the data transporter, beam me up, Scotty, sort of thing. Sorry. What? Anything else?
What you're just apologizing to me?
I apologize to myself because I'm using the original Star Trek series reference to the Next Generation reference, and I actually went through and watched the original series. I'm like, this doesn't aged well. I mean, there was one point where
it doesn't.
Captain Kirk was pretending to be a horse, and he had a little person riding me on his back. I'm like, this isn't good.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
Maybe I have to rethink the icon I used. Maybe put in something of Star Trek into the data transporter.
Oh, you should do that. A little transporter beam or something. That'd be awesome. Have a database in there. Database icon. The transporter beam. Perfect. Look at that.
See, you're just raising it now for Linn's editing. If he could just make someone transport away,
Well, I was going to have him tell Linn to go make the icon for him.
We're just putting all this work.
You always can contribute.
Oh man. Okay. Okay. I'm enjoying this a little too much. I need to back off a little bit. So, any other things you want to mention? Anything you're working on now, or anything in the future that you're looking at doing?
For specific tools, not exactly. It's as I said, it's just a side project when I have some free time. So I fill that free time mainly by maintaining the tools I have. So when I have an idea for something new, I'll implement it. But it's not. I don't have anything in my sleeve, or how do you say it?
Up your sleeve works, yeah.
Yeah, I'm not so familiar with English. How do you
colloquialisms or phrases?
Yes, that's exactly.
Yeah, there's something Scott taught me last time, I think, too. So yeah, I'm not familiar with all his sayings either.
I could just make them up, and you'd be none the wiser.
Totally, and then I could talk to other people pretending like I know something that is totally wrong. That's probably works too.
But when I was at college, I went with some friends. We went through this period of time of trying to make up phrases and trying to get them into the vocabulary of everyone around us. If we use them enough, we figured people will just assume that they're common phrases. Like one of them was, it's same field, different turnips, and another one was, well, you know what they say, any which way counts the pigeons in. So, and that, as you can imagine, actually no one ended up using them. They just thought we were weird for using strange phrases.
Is that from the Pigeonhole Principle? Is that where you get that one in?
It was, you're overthinking it. We were just making up stupid phrases.
Right. I was just going to be mildly impressed. I tried to get started ASDOPS as a saying for Azure DevOps. ASDOPS. It's an ASDOPS, but I don't know. So far, I don't think it's caught on, but I continue to use ASDOPS.
Everyone's like Googling ASDOPS. What's he talking about? Got no idea. This new product that we've not heard of.
There's also an island in Michigan. It's Mackinac is the name of it, and it's French origin. So there's actually C at the end, and so I always pronounce it Mackinac because I think it sounds cooler to actually pronounce the final letter there than just Mackinac. So looks like Mackinac, but it's actually Mackinac. But anyway, funny things. So, Bram, you're looking for some free time to do some tools, huh?
Yes, and mostly in summer. So
Mostly in the summer.
yeah, by the end of the year, it's always getting a bit busier. But during summer, it's the time that I open my backlog and see what can be done. So I already filled up 2 or 3 items, new items in my backlog.
Okay.
And so it's
most people will go outside, enjoy the warm weather, but Scott and Bram, they open up the backlog and go figure out how GUIDs are constructed in on-prem environments. So
yeah, I don't know if you've ever been in Belgium, but we only have 2 nice weeks of weather here in Belgium, and then it's.
Is that it? Oh,
yeah.
Sounds fun.
And there you are outside with your laptop, enjoying the weather and on your backlog.
Yeah. Something like that, yeah.
Maybe he has a log that's fallen over in his backyard, and that is his backlog. Maybe that's what it is.
Oh, we're just going to get onto the dad jokes now, aren't we? I mean, it's getting to that point in the show where it's
okay. Yeah, all right.
The inevitable
we could
dad joke.
So Bram, we've had a couple episodes in a row here where the dad jokes seem to be coming out. Do you have one that you have a go-to dad joke that you use every now and then, or?
Actually not. I'm not a funny guy in the family, so. No, actually,
Scott said he's got 10 tons and he's been holding out on me. So, Scott, what do you got for me, man?
Oh, you put me on the spot.
Of course I did.
Yeah, well, I make the kids lunches for school, and always on Fridays put a dad joke in there. So and they roll their eyes and hide it from their friends because they're embarrassed, and all those kind of things. So what's one? Okay, so yeah. I've just finished my PhD in palindrome studies. So, you know what? Now you can call me Dr. Awkward.
Because awkward is actually.
You have to. It's a thinking joke. You have to. You have to write it down and think about it. Daryl's now going for it. Yeah, like I say, the best dad jokes are the ones you actually have to explain. I think that's that's the criteria.
I think you had the understanding of jokes wrong, but that's okay. So yeah, yes. So I mean, yes, I understand palindrome being frontwards and backwards. I had to go search to make sure I understood, being the same. But I was expecting awkward to be a palindrome or something, but I didn't.
Dr. Awkward. Yeah. Awkward. So if you write I'm not going to explain that. You can work it out.
Oh, there we go. That's what it is. All right. Is that really what it is? I don't know. Maybe you guys spell Dr. Awkward Palindrome actually showed up. Oh, okay. It's the DR. Ah, all right. Finally.
DR.
Finally got it. I was spelling out doctor rather than the DR dot stuff. So okay.
And the penny drops.
Yes. Yeah. Well, all right. I got to give a better one than that. I just my mouth tastes bad now with that one. So here's I like ones that don't require a whole lot of thought, Scott. So here's the question. This is probably a good one for your kids. You can put it in their lunchbox for tomorrow. Why was the broom late for school?
I don't know, Daryl. Why was the broom late for school?
It overswept.
Wah, wah, wah.
Short ones. There's no explaining.
Two ends of the spectrum there. Well, Bram, you can have those. So I think probably Daryl's is probably
I wrote them down so I can use them tomorrow at work.
I don't recommend you do, to be honest. But yeah,
we do need to do that dad joke face-off where we read off dad jokes to see who doesn't smile.
Try not to laugh. Yes.
Yeah, we should get 4 people on there for that, and each person bring 3 or 5 dad joke of a dad joke episode.
We need to make this happen. We really need to make this happen. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
The XrmToolCast does try not to laugh edition.
Dad jokes. Yes, try not to laugh edition of dad jokes. So that would be great. That may be our most viewed episode ever. We'll have to see.
Very likely. Yeah.
All right. Well, Bram, you've been nice enough to listen to our bad jokes. Maybe you didn't laugh as much as you should have, but that's okay. I'll forgive you for that.
No, I enjoyed it a lot.
Is anything else we should cover before we let you go?
No, I believe we said the most important things, the most relevant things.
All right. So if anyone has any issues with their tool, put in the backlog now, and then wait for next summer where you get a chance to fix it.
Yes, actually, it's normally I get the tool is getting a 5-star rating all the time. All the time, it's like once a year or something. And all of a sudden, last week or 2 weeks ago, at the same time, Daryl asked me to be on the podcast. All of a sudden, like a 2-star review, it doesn't work! ! And that was it. So. I have to,
all publicity is good publicity, right? So
Yeah. Yeah, I think I got a 1-star one of mine once with no comments at all. I'm like, what?
Just a bad mood.
It sucks.
Yeah. I'll just tell myself they accidentally clicked the 1-star rather than the 5, or maybe they thought the 1-star was like, it's number 1. That's what I tell myself. But
yeah,
so I can sleep. All right, so thank you for your time, Bram. How do people get a hold of you if they want to check out what you're doing or see what you're up to?
Yeah, the easiest is via LinkedIn, of course. It's an option, so you can find me there. And another option is the GitHub issue list. Just post an issue and I'll get back to you. Like once a year during summer. And
at some point, asynchronously.
When you have time to.
Yeah, something like that.
I like it.
All right. Well, Scott, that's how our listeners can get hold of our guest. How can our listeners get a hold of us?
Well, Daryl, you can email us at cast@XrmToolBox.com, or you can get hold of us on Twitter and LinkedIn at XrmToolCast. It would be great to hear from you. And actually, I have to say, we had Daniel Kai on a couple of episodes ago, and he very kindly sent me a Kingsway Soft sweater, polo shirt, which I wore last episode, but I forgot to thank him. So, Daniel, if you're listening, thank you ever so much. If anyone else wants to send us any polo shirts, they'd be greatly received. Right? So, not that we've got nothing.
Is that the only thing he sent you?
Because what? He sent you something else, Daryl, didn't he?
He sent me something else. I just know maybe he likes me more than you, or maybe he thought I was in more need of this item. I don't know.
He sent me a rather nice laptop bag as well, but I wasn't wearing it last episode, so
Yes, I did notice you were wearing the shirt, and that is actually the second MVP that's given me a backpack. When I was at Power Objects, I left, and I still was using their backpack. Laptop backpack, because it was like perfect size for what I needed, and they didn't need it back. And Gus Gonzalez won a backpack at a drawing at Summit, and he walked off the stage. He's like, here's your backpack. I'll throw away the other one you got.
Classic.
That's like classic Gus. Yeah, but then he asked for it later, so but that's okay. I used it. I'm good.
So we're talking about Summit, of course. The Summit's coming up very quickly. Summit in North America. So it's exciting stuff. So I think we're going to try and do a recording there. So we need to work out the ins and outs of that.
Yes. Yep.
Yeah.
We'll find a spot and we'll squat and hopefully find someone to talk to. So yep.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Look forward to that.
Exciting.
I do need to finish up. Still need to finish up one of my sessions. So nothing like a deadline.
Exactly. Well, thanks ever so much, Bram. It's been really, really great chatting to you. Really enjoyable. I have to say, I'm going to definitely check out your data migration tool. I'll be recommending it to people for ease of use, etc. So thanks ever so much for telling us about it.
My pleasure.
All right. Adios. This has been the XrmToolCast with Jonas Rapp and Daryl Labar. If you have any questions for Jonas or I, or suggestions for future episodes, please send them to cast@XrmToolBox.com or tweet to XrmToolCast.